My name is Davyn Calfchild. I'm a hereditary chief. I've been here for 6 days. I've been doing a 13-day fast here on important issues like missing and murdered men, missing and murdered women, the Canada 150, Grassy Narrows, Thunder Bay police inquiries, water, land resource extraction, etc. And I've been sitting here in Queen's Park, fasting away, and I've had a lot of support coming in and out. And I continue to do this until Wednesday, the 14th, I think it is, because that'll be the full 13 days. And then after that, I'll be having a feast of my favorite foods. Seems like a long time.
Right on. Spiritually, you have a lot of people here. Duke Redbird was here. Duke
Yep.
Redbird.
Yeah,
you
he
have
dropped off some stuff for me. Some 7 grandfather teaching cards, so that I can always focus on the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I don't get distracted by the outside world, so I can keep my mind focused on the spiritual things that I need to get myself going through, and also the political aspect of talking to people who want to know why I'm out here doing what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's really important for me to...
Daddy?
Hold on.
Look, he's getting toys.
And it's really important for me to express to the Canadian citizens that
Daddy?
it's time to implement the two-row fully. And just let me hug my son and kiss him. I love you. Onkye. And so my message to both sides is for the Canadian citizens, they have to understand that the 150 thing is blasphemous, and that in 150 years that they have been benefiting off the idea of colonization, residential schools, the 60s school, sterilization, and all these tactics. And you think that after 150 years that there would be more balance within the two-row wampum. But the Canadian citizens are always told that the two-row wampum is not a valid treaty. And that's not true. The only treaties that really matter are the number treaties. So Six Nations and doesn't fit under the number treaties, they fit under the Indian Act. But this two-row wampum was still made by legal people for legal governments from 1613 up until now, and the Canadian government refuses to recognize the two-row wampum as a valid treaty. They want to be able to come to the band councils and corrupt them and make them sell off the land and make them sell off the resources to the corporations. And I think that a lot of Canadian citizens need to understand that that's not acceptable. You know, our reserves are living in fourth world conditions, and there's barely any cleaning drinking water. There's boil advisories, there's suicides, the housing is terrible, the land is fucked. And you know, so people have to understand that they need to take responsibility for the problems at home before they start taking care of the problems abroad. And what I mean by that is that if there was an earthquake right now in Ecuador, Haiti, Jamaica, or any place, you know that the white people of the Canadian government and other people would be throwing millions and millions of dollars
right
almost
there.
overnight.
Yeah, exactly.
They brag about how the millions they could raise for all these earthquake, disaster reliefs, but they don't take the responsibility of taking the money and fixing some of the problems on the reserve. And that is a big issue right there. So when I hear people talking about Canada 150 or talking about the issues that I'm bringing awareness, I guess the one common thing that I'm always told is, well, the government is stepping up, and why are you crying about the missing and murdered women when the government is doing the inquiries? Because the fact of it is that the real people that are making the money off the residential school claims and all that stuff is the government and the lawyers, and that is a problem. So that is not justice in my eyes, just to hear a few people and then throw money at them. That is not a permanent solution. That is almost like a temporary solution, you know, to be throwing money, and that's what's going to happen with a lot of these settlements. But there needs to be more awareness on the missing, murdered Indigenous men too, because we always focus on the women, but there's also Indigenous men disappearing on our territories that we never ever hear about. And it's a very important issue because we don't want to see our people going missing, whether they're men, women, children, aunts, grandmas, mothers, uncles, aunties. No, none of our people should be missing on our own territories due to cultural differences. You know, if you go into some smaller towns, you'll experience a lot of racism, you'll experience a lot of sexism, exploitation, lack of respect for our people. And this is why some of the problems are happening on the territories, like what happened in Thunder Bay. I know that a lot of people know that there was a Native woman that was raped during the Idle No More. And in Thunder Bay, the white people and the fucking police know who did it, but to this day, they will refuse to arrest him. But they talk about justice. So what kind of justice is it for this family? Last couple weeks, they found a young boy in the river, and I believe that the police tried to dissuade the Native community by saying that it wasn't him. And then I think for the inquiry after they pulled his body from the river, not only did they not inquire in Thunder Bay, but I believe they shipped his body to Sault Ste. Marie, maybe even possibly Takaranto. I don't remember where, but it wasn't in the hometown. This is just to cover up their tracks to justify. And right now, the Thunder Bay police chief of police is under criminal investigation, and the reserve up there, I think, is either Fort William Port Arthur or Fort William. One of the two has asked the OPP to step aside, and they've asked the RCMP to take over the investigations. How do I feel about that? Terrible. Because our own people should be doing our own inquiries and our own investigations, and we have police, tribal police on our reserves that should be able to have the power to do that. But according to the police code and the police guide, and I think you were there too for that meeting, Crow, downtown, where in the booklet for the recommendations, they said that Native people, Native police are not law officers, they're only liaisons, they're not allowed to be police forces. And that's a really insult. That's insult to injury. You know, why are we not allowed to police our lands? Why are we not allowed to police our territories without interference, of the foreign government? And that's where the two-row needs to come in. We don't need the RCMP or the OPP to come on our territories and do these investigations. It should be our people doing it, and we should have the same respect as these police officers, whether they're tribal police, Six Nations police, Blackfoot police. It doesn't matter. We do have tribal system government and tribal police forces on our territory, so it's really important that we really look at that too. The other thing is that the water advisory that's happening up in Grassy Narrows still needs to be addressed, because the mill that polluted all that water down there,
You're delaying things in
yeah,
court.
and I believe that the mill has new owners.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And there was a guy who came down here who works for Queen's Park, and he was trying to convince me that the government was doing everything for Grassy Narrows, and I said, but in 30 years they've been crying about the same issue. Kathleen Wynne lied to the people of Grassy Narrows, and the fact of it is that they were just down here meeting with their new lawyer. So if everything was okay, why would the people of Grassy Narrows still have to be in the court system and looking for a new lawyer to take over their case? So it's not a settled thing. The mercury poisoning there is very, very devastating. And you know that all these problems from working with us in the past, Crow, that the suicides, the clean water, the housing, these are really, really important
Steve
issues.
Forrester, Chief. Yeah.
And it's time for the Canadian citizens to start taking responsibility for some of these problems. Don't get me wrong, I'm sympathetic to the people around the world, but if there was an earthquake that ripped in Japan, why is it okay for the Canadian government to throw these millions of dollars when they can't even take care of the fucking problems that are happening right in front of their faces?
Syria, they sent, after that nuclear thing, they sent $981 million.
Well, where the fuck is this money coming from?
Yeah, and for the reconciliation, all that money's sitting and they're tying it up and they're not allocating it, so it's all held up. That's the way to go.
Well, and this is the thing about the Canada 150 is they're going to get the Indians that will sell out their culture to make people think that oh look, this is how it really is, but it's not. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty shamed at a 150. I don't see anything glorifying about 150 years of colonization.
Oppression, yeah, everything. Well,
You know,
that's crazy.
you're Portuguese, Crow, and you should understand that what your people did to the people of Mozambique, what they did to the
Angola.
people of Angola,
Yeah.
and what they did to the people of Macau, and so you understand that idea of colonization, and you as a Portuguese, I don't know if you have Portuguese citizenship, but even if you did,
Yeah, I do,
that
yeah.
even as a Portuguese citizen, that you are taking the responsibility and letting people know that that is not okay to be doing.
Exactly,
And,
yeah, I
you
hear
know,
you.
the
Yeah.
idea of colonization in the year 2016 blows me away with some of these Canadian citizens because their attitude is extremely racist. I was born here, I paid taxes,
Yeah.
I got the deed,
Yeah.
get out of here.
It's shameful the way they think.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It
really
really is.
shameful.
And we've seen this happen in many occasions, like Caledonia, you know, where we were met with resistance with the Canadian people there, and they wanted to fight us. And,
Oka,
you know,
oh my God.
Oka.
Oh, wow.
What's that other one? You know, Dudley George, Ipperwash.
Ipperwash, that's a good one, yeah.
And now we have Standing Rock, and
Yeah.
we have that. What's that camp up? in northern
BC, Site C, Valley, that's
Another camp up there.
Kahanas Manuel, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
Site C
you know,
Dam.
if everything was
Site C.
okay, why are we uprising? The real fact about colonization, I'll give you proof. I lit the fire, and the police have come down here twice. But it's not the police that have been asking me to put out the fire. It's been the Parks and Rec people. And they keep coming here insisting about permits. And we've had to tell them many, many times that we don't need permits to do what we're doing. We're the rightful inheritors to our traditional territories and these ceremonies that have been practiced way before the white people ever showed up here. You know, so we have validation, and like I said, these treaties and all these things that we're doing on our territories are our birthright. We have the right to do these ceremonies without being molested. We have the right to do these ceremonies. We don't have to ask a foreign government when it's time to light a fire, when it's time to pray for the people. As a matter of fact, I remember talking to the police, and I asked them, I said, "You look like a churchgoer." He says, "Yes." I said, "Is there any penalty if you don't put enough money in the collection plate? Or if you don't drink enough wine? Or if you don't eat the right wafer? Is there any penalization? Or if you don't get blessed by the priest?" You know, these are the things. So they have to change their attitude because they know that they wouldn't go to a church, a mosque, or a synagogue and act that way. They wouldn't start telling the people what to do.
Exactly, yeah.
So why do they come here and start saying, oh, Native people aren't allowed to have these ceremonial fires, and we need permits, and we need permission, and we need this, and we need that? We don't need anything. We're quite capable of taking care of ourselves. And it's because of we have resisted over the last 150 years of Confederation in their eyes, is we're still here. And as long as we're still here, they still have to honor those agreements. And when it comes to the Turo Wampum, it says up until the last blade of grass and the last river flows that they have to keep that honored agreement. So it's up our responsibility to keep forcing the issue of the Turo Wampum to work together and not against each other. No government should be governing each other. Each government should be working together to solve the problems together. And that is my understanding about some of these issues that needs to really, really happen. Our chiefs really need to get off their asses, quit begging to the Canadian government about these, help us. Well, grow tobacco.
Marijuana.
Well, I don't want to say that because there's a lot of people that might not agree with that. I know there are some reserves that are into the marijuana industry, and I'm not going to say which ones because out of respect. But the ones that are into the marijuana industry, I don't know if it's really benefiting them because I don't have all the facts. But, you know, there could be other things, food growing, there could always be other things, the hunting, the fishing, the trapping. So we need to be self-sustainable, you know, and for us to be self-sustainable, we need to be able to do these things as a group and as a community, you know. The church people on the reserve need to quit demonizing the traditional people, and like the Turo, they need to start working together instead of demonizing everybody, saying, oh, well, you're witch, this is witchcraft, this is demonology. Well, because I follow the path of my ancestors makes me a witch. I don't think so. It's in my so-called blood memory to do this. So that's why I'm down here, and these are the things that are important to me, and I always encourage people to come down and visit me and talk with me about some of these issues, whether they're white, black, Jewish, Hindu, Onkye.
One world, one love.
Well, yeah, one world for sure.
One love.
So I encourage people to come down and visit me and give me some support. Like I said, I'm on day 6. I'm feeling all right.
You're looking good, yeah. I thought you'd be a little more confused, but you're all right. Yeah, everything's
well,
there.
I think getting sleep at night is a good thing, and like having my son here and my wife come sing songs is a really big strength for me, because that's what I really need.
Yeah.
And so it's been really working for me so far. It's raining right now, and I'm glad I got some good people here, and I'm not alone. So I don't know what else I could say,
Okay.
Joe, but thanks for coming down.
Maybe
I
I
wish
should
you'd been here like a couple days earlier, but you know what? Creator gets the people out here when he needs them the most, and so I think that you weren't early and you weren't late. I think you were right on time.
Solidarity, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
Now,
you. Bye-bye.